book, Sell. So without further ado, I request Mr. Bagchi to take the stage and share his words of wisdom with all of us.
Thank you so much. And it's such a privilege and an honor. Is there an echo in my mic or it's okay?
No, I think
it's okay. Is it better? I think this is way better. So whoever told me to put it on the collar is not the right place, but I went along with him because I didn't want to question his authority. But actually, this is much better. Yeah, this is much better. So it's an honor and it's a delight to be starting my new year with such bright young people, and it feels very good to be here for multiple different reasons. One is that I just finished a whole set of lab walk thanks to Dr. Ashish Shri here, and met with some very inspiring people. So after that, coming in here, it is like one high after the high, and I'm delighted. We're going to spend a short period of time, I believe, for me to give a warm up because there are people listening into the conversation over the net, and then we can make it free for all, and you can lead the discussion. So largely, I think the point is about scale, and I think it's important to think about scale. But I must first tell you that all things in life need not scale. It is okay not to scale, as long as you don't make false comparisons. So 5 years from now, 10 years from now, one of you will do a tiny enterprise, employ 5 people, not even to ever have the pain of talking to ugly venture capitalists. Okay? Don't have to go and be accountable to the stock market. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. The world requires many such companies for many different reasons. One big reason is that, contrary to popular belief, large corporations don't create employment. Small companies create more employment. It's okay to remain small. However, it is not okay to say that because I'm small, I don't have to be globally competitive. Okay. So there was a time when small was beautiful, and it meant that you don't have to follow process. You don't have to open your shop at the appointed time and close it at the appointed time. You don't have to worry about your image quotient on the internet. Okay, you don't have to worry about consistent, sustainable quality. That's not true. So small is beautiful, but so let's imagine that you are a small, limited edition winemaker in south of France. Okay. It's okay to spend multiple generations doing that, and you'll be respected as one of the greatest winemakers in the world. But actually, your quality standards will be far ahead of the best multinationals in the world. Or you're making cheese, okay, in the Swiss mountains, or now you're making cheese in India, good cheese in India. And some startups are doing, some women-led startups are doing absolutely phenomenally good quality cheese. But you can't say that because I'm small, the rules don't apply to me. Okay. So it is perfectly fine to stay small. As long as I said, 5, 10 years from now, you don't make false comparisons. You don't say, I want to be an Ambani, and the system conspired against me and I'm unable to do it. So the end goal is very important. What is the definition of success for you is very important. There are 2 things in life. One is point of arrival and one is point of departure. Okay. Your point of departure brought you here. But what is your point of arrival 5 years from now, 10 years from now? If you define that, you'll be in a very happy place. So if you do not want to be small, beautiful, and global, okay, the 3 things go together now. You want to scale, then as I look at many companies and not-for-profit organizations all my life, as a student of scale, I try to look at systems that scale, and they have nothing to do with for-profit, not-for-profit, government, and all that. Systems that scale typically have 7 characteristics. And you have to pay attention to those 7 characteristics in an equal measure right from the beginning. First characteristic is your domain. You have to be clear about what domain you are in. There should not be any confusion, not just in your own mind, but in the mind of your customer, your employee, and your potential investor. In the first 20 seconds, not 20 seconds, first 2 minutes of conversation with you, in a completely clear manner, your domain should come out, which is what happened in our last conversation in that little space that we had. Now, why domain is important? Domain is important because obviously it is because the world is becoming very specialized. People don't want to deal with me tools and things like that. But if the domain is not clear, people will not know how to relate to you, particularly investors. Because investors tend to be limited attention and sometimes dim-witted people. So they don't get it. If they don't get it, they will stay away from it. And I have a biological way of explaining that. So let us say that I'm chatting with you here, you're listening nicely, and suddenly a tiger walks in. What will you do? You'll actually jump out of that window because you know the tiger's domain. There's no confusion about it. But if it's a puppy that walks in through the door, your reaction will be very different. So the moment domain is known, people know how to relate to you. And the reactions then get actually calibrated based on how effortlessly, smoothly you're able to explain your domain. The second thing that is very critical for scaling up is the use of tools. We underestimate the power of tools. You being a scientific community and a science-led bunch of startups, tools will come very naturally to you. But you may not attach the kind of importance that you need to as you grow up because you think the tools are all that there are in the lab. But if you look at companies that scale, or companies that place enormous amount of importance on use of tools in all activities of the company. Okay. So I'll give you a very small example. There's a company that will stay for the next 4 or 5 years to run its business on Excel sheets. No law against that. It's a company that will say that, I will use a cheap and cheerful local variety of financial accounting package. And there'll be one startup who says that when can I afford to buy an ERP package? The characteristic outcome of each of those are very, very different. I must tell you, when we were less than 300 people as a company in Mindtree, we said that we must use Oracle as an ERP. You don't need an ERP for a 300 people company. That was a service company. But if you want to be large one day, you have to pretend to be big on day one. The pretension is very important. You have to pretend that, oh, I'm very big. And automatically, you will start thinking very differently. So we said, how can we build a global company if we cannot close our books on demand? Okay. Most startups don't know whether they're in profit or loss because they don't know how to close their books, right? So how will you take investment decisions? How will you take hiring decisions? You don't know your true costs. So we said, if we were to be a multi-location company, a global company one day, we need an ERP on day one. But we also had the clarity to say that this is going to last us for only 3 years. After that, we need a more sophisticated ERP. So imagine here's a company which is venture funded, right in the initial stage, that is thinking 5 years from now to say that we must scrap this. Okay. And that's what we did. We actually scrapped that whole thing because that was coming in the way of scaling up. Right? So what tools will you use? You have to think in a 360-degree manner. And interestingly, one of the reasons companies don't scale is because when you are a 10 people company, is very different from when you're a 500 people company. If the 500 people company has to work in a cohesive manner, then the use of tools has to be in a shared manner, such that it defines the way that the company not only works, but the company thinks. So one is domain, the second is tools. The third, very critically, is methodology. How you do what you do. It's very easy because today you are only 4 people and a couple of people working for you part-time. But the difference between you and Kiran Majumdar Shaw is that Biocon is methodology. And methodologies don't happen just like that. Methodology somebody has to think about. Okay? And methodology not about the chemical process management in the lab, but methodology related to how you hire, how you fire, how you select projects, how you select customers, how you retain customers, how you evaluate a particular account. So if you look at, let us say, the methodology used by a company like McKinsey, it will be very different from the methodology used by Pricewaterhouse. It's very interesting what it does to people who work for you. You know, the how to's actually become the binder for people who work. The methodology becomes the differentiator. And you know what? When customers come in, you are not the only one, though we all love to pretend that we have figured it out. You know, I only know about fuel cells and nobody else is thinking about this so and so thing on the cloud. But right this moment, 3,000, equally or more competent people are thinking about it. Okay. So the customer has choices, and the customer is not stupid. And the customer loves to listen to your song, but the customer also knows, you don't know, but the customer knows that 3 other people are doing similar stuff. But they become beholden to methodology. If they see that you have methodology, then they will gravitate towards you. Because methodology, apart from becoming a binder, also is a strong predictor of what to expect. Methodologies guarantee predictability, and customers want predictability. If you don't have methodology, then you will not be in a position to deliver predictability. So customers are not just looking at products and services from you, they're expecting predictability. So domain, tools, methodology. The fourth thing is quality. And we think quality is about a standard that we set, is about a certain product value that we create. It's a certain set of process maturity that we have. But quality is a moving target. And the classical definition of quality is it is value perceived by the customer. It's not value perceived by you. It is value perceived by the customer. So the value perceived by the customer requires you to know the customer. And your customer may not be who you think the customer is. Okay. So we need to step out and go discover customers and customers' customer. Okay. If you know truly what is the quality expectation of the customer's customer, that you are more likely to deliver quality which is ahead of its time. So we need to think about quality. Quality not as in a standard, quality not in terms of a certain set of prescription, but quality as seen by the customer. And there's another interesting idea that people who propagated Six Sigma and ideas like those, whose whole focus about quality was about defect reduction. Okay. Their whole philosophy of chasing quality through defect reduction was by saying, so anything that the customer did not pay for and you are doing is a defect. Did the customer actually willingly, happily pay for what you are doing here? Right? If not, then take it out of the system. So on one hand, we need to determine quality, which is a moving target, and look at the customers' unstated need and listen to them deeply and create quality around that. And when you look at quality, you need to build a philosophy of quality that goes beyond products and service quality. It has to be the overall quality, the quality consciousness of every single part of what you do. Domain, tools, methodology, quality. The next is innovation, which comes very naturally to you. Because I'm sitting in NCL's Innovation Center, I don't have to tell you about innovation. Except that the idea of innovation must be a culture, not just a breakthrough idea on which you're working. Innovation has to be a culture. And what do I mean by innovation as a culture? I've always tended to ask people, if I run into the corridor or we meet each other near the coffee machine, and that by the way, Prem, I'm still waiting for my tea, and might as well get me some tea. Okay. So if I run into you in the coffee machine and say, hey, what's new and different? You should be in your sleep able to tell me quickly what is new and different. What's new and different? I certainly ask you, thank you so much. What is new and different? In terms of not just the product, but in terms of, you should be able to tell me quickly, oh, so we have changed the way that we are doing customer acquisition business. That's new and different. Okay. Or, what's new and different? The way we are now closing our books is new and different. What's new and different? We just changed the hiring methodology in the organization. That's new and different. What's new and different? The way we are now spending time in the lab versus land is new and different. So how do you create an innovation mindset in the organization that people, without blinking an eye, say what is new and different every quarter? Right? Somebody very nicely said that if I meet you once in 3 months and each time you're not able to tell me something interesting about you, that means you're not innovative. You should be able to tell me about a new thing you are doing which you have never done before. A new place you have gone. There was a time, by the way, at the end of the year, I used to define my own success. And one of the parameters of defining my own success was every year in the preceding year, I should have landed or taken off from a place where I have never before landed or taken off from. Very simple. You can do it only if you're open to traveling to new places. And this is not just about tourism. I had very little time to do tourism, all my life. So tourism was incidental to business travel. That means that you have gone to a new place to search for a new customer or a new supplier. So if this year I have not gone to 3 places which I have never gone before, that means I'm stagnating. So what new book did you read? What new sport did you pick up? So this whole thing about new has to become a matter of organizational culture, not just about the top people. So we need to think about innovation, domain, tools, methodology, quality, innovation. The next is branding. People think branding is marketing, and geeks and nerds and amoebic life forms like you actually look down upon the marketing guy. You don't like the idea of customers to begin with, and then you don't like the marketing guy. They're the flaky guys. Okay. But branding is not about marketing. The essence of branding is the externalization of your inner value. You may be the greatest thing since the Big Bang happened. You have great inner value. But people who matter need to perceive what you are doing. It is not their job, it is your job. It is not about propaganda, it is not about projection. Even our gods are branded. Religions are heavily branded. They understand branding. Politicians understand branding. So if religion and politics, actually they understood branding before business understood branding. Business came much later. So there is value in branding. And the entrepreneur has to pay attention. Don't assume that you because you know how to figure out a product or process, you are also the expert in branding. Okay. Take expert help and try to understand what goes into the art and the science and the witchcraft of branding. So I told you about 6 things. The 7th thing is governance. If you can focus on these 7 things right from day 0, you'll scale. What ends up happening is many startups will not focus on all 7 things in the beginning. They will say, I'll give you the example of governance. They will say that I'm too small to think about that. Okay. What is governance? Governance is simple example of governance is bookkeeping. Okay. Now, once you do bookkeeping, I'm doing bookkeeping. My brother-in-law part-time is moonlighting and coming at night and doing my bookkeeping for me. First of all, it's your brother-in-law doing it. Right? And secondly, it is being done part-time. Right? So you are creating governance gaps right from the beginning. And then you say, when I'm big, no, I'll go to a proper chartered accountant. Right now, I have a chartered accountant who signs everything. Chartered accountant's job is not to sign. The guy who says he signs it without questioning, that means he's not your friend, he's your enemy. He or she, not being gender, discriminatory here. So there'll be a company or there's an entrepreneur who said right from day 0, I will go hire the best accountant. I will go and hire only that guy who can question me, who can say this is wrong, I'm not going to sign you unless you fix the process. So whether it is accounts, whether it's your process, whether it is your manufacturing process, whether it's something else, governance is very key. What kind of governance do you use for your recruitment? How do you use governance for your performance evaluation? So if you say that I will pick up all those things only when I'm successful, then you already created the gaps. That is why I said right in the beginning that on day 0, I like that question somebody said about how do I become an Ambani. Not a bad question, actually. So if you pay attention to people who have become very large, more or less you will find that they have paid attention to these 7 things right in the beginning, not waiting, not doing choosy, saying that, oh, these 3 things are it will come easy. And anyway, I'm too small to think about that. So you don't pick up these things as you go along. You don't start thinking about branding when you are 100 crores. They'll not hit 100 crores. So these 7 elements are very critical to scaling up. But I can keep you on this subject for a long period of time. If you have the time, please download a book I wrote called The Elephant Catchers. You can say what a nasty guy, he comes and starts selling his book, but that's not a bad thing to do. So I wrote this book, The Elephant Catchers, because I'm fascinated with the idea of scale. And not just looked at business examples, but not-for-profit examples. I think this is a book. Good Lord. By the way, I didn't pay him for doing this.
I think you have a fan club here, so.
Yeah, I do this for you.
But if you want to use the spoon,
This is a brand and this.
Anyway,
So are we done?
yeah.
So this book, those who want to scale, have a look at it. But please go back to my original statement. Not everything in life needs to scale. Stay small, stay beautiful. The world requires more cute organizations, but be the best. Staying small, you may be the smallest pizza place in Pune, but let it be on Lonely Planet. And you have enough examples in Pune. The Bada Pav guy who had income tax rate, used to sell Bada Pav on the road. The people would come all the way to Bangalore, Joshi, right, to eat his Bada Pav.
Yeah.
So be that guy. And of course, do governance. If he had done governance, right, then there'd be venture capital companies lining up.
I think with that, we close this session. Thank you very much. Pratik, over to you. We can close that. Yeah.
Sir, thank you for this super insightful session. With this, we come to the end of today's talk. I would like to thank all the participants who joined us with us online, and hope they will be greatly benefited from the learning shared by Mr. Bagchi in today's session. Thank you very much. No question.
I think we can close.
Hello, Pratik. No, it's not closed. Just give us 2 minutes. We will take it up from here. If you have any questions, I have noted one question. If there are any more questions, please type it in the chat box. Okay, so we will, I think, close the session for now, and we will get back to you on the question and answers after some time over email, maybe. There's one question that I've noted. So thank you, everyone. We will end the session now. Please type your email ID here. I will note it down. Yes.